everyone, Gabriel here, and today we are going to learn how to capture that barcode on the first page here with the employee ID information and pass it over to this field here. And then on the next pages, we are going to keep that employee ID and then have the rest of the data on other fields like this second barcode here. And then when we find another employee like this, the employee ID will change. Again, the same barcode with a different value down here. And as we move through the next sections, the employee ID is the new one. Let's take a look at how it was done, and then I will show you how to set it up. As you can see here, we have two barcode readings, and the main difference between them, they are the same. The only difference is the read area. Since we have that first barcode here on the bottom, and then we have the other barcodes on the upper half of the page, we have the first barcode reading only capturing the employee ID barcode that is down here, and the second reading is the same, but it only reads, you can see that barcode is not read, but if I move to the second page, it is reading the barcodes on the bottom half, on the upper half of the page. As you can see here, it is clipping 50% from the bottom, meaning that it will only read the upper half of the document. And then to carry over the value, we have a barcode trigger here. And when that first barcode reading exists, and it only happens when we have a new employee ID, we are going to set the default value for a field with the reading. We have as parameters the employee ID field here. So that's basically how we set it up. Let's take a look now at how to set it up ourselves. The first step is to create a new job. Let's click on the new batch button here and run the job wizard. I'm going to name that job barcode carryover job and then click on next. We are going to enable barcode reading because that's what we need. We don't need IntelliTag and we don't need accounts payable. I'll click on next. We have single image documents. We click on next again. We have generic fields and we are going to use two fields here. We have the first one, that's barcode reading, but we are going to call it employee ID. And then we have the second field that's going to be called section ID. And instead of alphanumeric, we have a barcode reading here. I'll click on next. Here, the output doesn't matter. I'll click on next again. And now we can make sure we have everything we need. We have barcode reading turned on. We have single image documents. We have two fields that are barcode reading. And that's all we need for this tutorial. I'll click on finish here. And let's name our first batch and create it. This one is going to be called barcode carryover batch 1. And then I'll click on create batch. Now it is time to import our documents. And since this is a barcode job, we want to import only a small sample of our documents so we can edit everything and set everything up. And then we can remove the sample documents and import the entire batch. Now, as you can see, we have the same reading for the two barcode reading fields. We have employee ID and section ID. And that is because we only have one barcode reading active. What we're going to do now is to create a second barcode reading. One is going to be for the barcode on the bottom half of the page for the employee ID barcode. And the other one is going to be for the top half of the page. That's the section ID barcode. I will click on this because I'm going to use the first barcode reading for the bottom half and the second barcode reading that I'm going to create right now for the top half. So I'll click on the page with the barcode I want, click on the barcode read button, and then add barcode read configuration. As you can see, it is reading the barcode from the page I selected here. And what I want is for it not to read the bottom half of the page. To do that, I go to the bottom section on the read area here. And since it is 100, we know that it goes from 100 to 0. So I want to crop 50% of the bottom of the page. So that part of the page, half from the middle of the page to the bottom, will not be read. The next step is to remove that barcode action here. And then I'll read again to make sure that the barcode is being read. And then I'll click OK. I want to reprocess. That's for module 2. And that's perfect. Just to make sure ChronoScan identifies that I have a new barcode reading and that it is reading on those documents. And now let's edit the settings for the first one, that is the barcodes on the bottom half of the page. I will select the page with the barcode I want. I will click on the barcode read again, and then barcode reading settings 1. I will open it and you can see it is reading that barcode. And to make sure it doesn't read anything on the upper half of the page, again I go to the read area section on the top section. Since it is 0 here, we know that it goes from 0 to 100. So I want to crop 50% of the top of the page. I will go down here and click on read to make sure it is still reading the barcode I want. I will again remove that action here and then click OK. Once again, I will reprocess. And there we go. Now we have the two modules updated. Now, I want to make sure that the module 1, the reading 1, is not reading the barcode for the section ID and the other way around. So I'll click here on any page actually with the section ID barcode, and I will open the reading 1. As you can see, it is not reading, and that's exactly what I wanted. Click OK again, no need to reprocess. And now let's make sure the reading 2 is not reading the barcode for the employee ID. I will click on the page with the employee ID barcode and open the second reading setting. And as you can see again, it is not reading. That's exactly what we wanted. That's just a testing step. You don't really need to do that, but it is good practice just to make sure everything is good. And if your pages move around a little bit, you want to check on some pages with some extreme movement to make sure you have the correct read area setting on your job. Now that we have the two modules, we have to set up the reading fields here. I will click on the first one, select the first document because it has the barcode I want, and then I'll click on the field properties button. This will open the properties on the properties panel, and if you don't see the properties panel, you click on the panels button right here, and it will reset the layout of the program for you. Now you can see here, we have this one right here. Let's open the properties. Now you can see the properties open up automatically. We don't have to click here. And now on the barcode field configuration, I will click on the gear icon here. And we can see we only have module 1 because that's the only one that's being read here. And I will use the whole code. And that's perfect. For the employee ID, I want to use module 1 we just created. But for the section ID, I want to use the module 2, which is barcode reading 2. Now let's make sure again the barcode reading settings is read. I'll click OK and reprocess again. And now let's click on the section ID field. Again, making sure we have that any document with the barcode I want selected. Open the properties, and you can see here, since I was already working on the properties panel, it will just show up the properties for the new field I just clicked. Again, on barcode field configuration, we click on the gear icon, and let's make sure we select module 2 here. You can see ChronoScan barcode module 2. That is the barcode reading 2. If you don't see that module 2 here, all you have to do is you can just select all documents, open the second barcode reading settings, click OK to close it, and when it asks to reprocess, you click yes. And then you will have the second module to choose from on the field properties here. There we go. Now we have the field setup, we have the reading setup. We have to make sure that the employee ID moves around to the other documents, and every time it changes, like this one, we want that same value to be to go over to the new documents. To do that, we're going to set up the trigger. I'll just click on the first document here, click on the barcode read button, and click on the barcode trigger settings. That's how we set up a barcode trigger. On the conditions, I want the first module to exist. So the condition is barcode exists, and the module is the first one. We don't need to set a value because it is based on the existence of the reading. I'll click OK. So every time ChronoScan reads that first reading here, that is the bottom half of the page, I want to execute a action. Let's select the action from the drop-down menu here, and that will be set a default value for a field. And when we click add, we have the parameters here. I want the field to be employee ID, and the value, let's open the variables window. I want it to be a document field employee ID. And as you can see here, if I double click it, we will have the preview value, and we also have the preview value up here. That's exactly what we want. We cannot use the barcode reading because that will mess things up. If I double click here, you can see we don't get the desired preview value. So we don't want to use a page field. We want to use a document field, which starts doc field employee ID. So that means that I will click OK and then click OK again. That means that every time ChronoScan reads that barcode here, that is the module 1, that it is the barcode reading 1, ChronoScan will set the default value for the employee ID field with the reading it just captured from the barcode here. I'll click on close, and now we are ready to test it out. We remove all of our documents from the batch and import again. Now ChronoScan will do its barcode reading and other importing tasks, and after everything imports, we are ready to take a look at the results. Let's see here. On the first one, we have the employee ID and we have no section ID. That's the intended result. And then the value of the employee ID carries over. And when we have another employee ID, it changes here and it carries over. That's perfect. Now, one thing I would do before exporting would be to select the second field here, the section ID, and change the obligatory nature on the properties from mandatory to optional. That means I won't have those annoying errors here and I would be able to export everything. So that's it, guys. I hope you liked it and I will see you on the next tutorial. Bye bye.